Hi everyone, I'm Suzanne Neufung, CEO of GBTA, coming to you live from GBTA Canada in Toronto. Here with me today is Brian Leon, CEO of Choice Hotels Canada. Welcome, Brian.
Well, thank you for having me.
You've been at Choice a while. How long have you been there?
A little over 17 years.
That's amazing. Been through good times, bad times. How do you see the outlook for hospitality in Canada today?
Yeah, I think the outlook is great. I'm really optimistic about the long-term outlook certainly for our business. When you take a look at, what kind of drives success for our hotels, I think there's a lot of, I'd say, kind of a convergence of factors that we see as being really positive right now. I mean, coming out of the pandemic, it's obviously the biggest disruption we've ever seen. But when we take a look at where revenues, for us, revenues ended up last year, close to 30% higher than what they were,
Congratulations.
From a RevPAR standpoint in 2019. So more than a full recovery. And when we look at the long-term outlook, I think that there's certain things that are really going to give us a good tailwind in the future. I'd say that demographically, we've got some really good tailwinds there. I think we've got a whole bunch of baby boomers that are now wanting to spend a whole bunch of time traveling, a lot of them doing road trips, which is great for our business. Yeah. We see a lot of young people that increasingly are really focused on not wanting to sacrifice travel. They are prioritizing travel with their money, and that is, I think, a good thing for us. So we see, the demand side looking really good in the future. Corporate travel obviously has come back in a big way. And on the supply side, it's really interesting. What has happened through the pandemic? A few different things from the supply side standpoint. We've had in Canada, about 3% of hotel rooms permanently gone, converted to non-hotel use. Wow. And you start to think about the impact on that as it kind of filters through and that whole relationship between supply and demand, which is really what drives RevPAR over the longer term. That is, I think, going to be something that from a development standpoint creates a lot of opportunities going forward. I think it's also going to create some upward pressure on RevPAR. And the other part of it from a supply standpoint is just that we've seen since the pandemic hit, very, very few new hotels being built. The level of new supplies in Canada, much like in the US, is just at a much lower level. We've got steady growth, but very low growth at a much lower level, for the last 3 years and probably for the next 2 or 3 years. So when you look at that long-term reduced level of new build development, compound that with the hotels that have left the system, I think the supply-demand relationship is really good. So we're really optimistic.
Back to economics 101, right?
Yeah,
as you think about it. Certainly one of the headwinds you might be feeling from your supply as well as your buy side is the need to be more sustainable. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, how are you providing the kinds of templates or solutions that your hotels are looking for to reduce their carbon footprint?
And that is so important. I would say when we take a look at sustainability, it is something that is increasingly important to our guests. We certainly hear that, but it's also important to our franchisees. We're a 100% franchise organization, so our franchisees are a customer of ours as well, and they are very focused on sustainability, and our team is as well. Our own employees. So it's one of those things that is critically important through the industry, and I think becoming more and more important as we go forward. So it's been something that has been on our radar in a really big way. We've got a whole kind of an ESG roadmap, and sustainability is obviously a big part of that. And it is multifaceted. We're making really good progress on it in areas like reduction of elimination of single-purpose plastics, for example, and just reduction in plastics in the hotels. Things like we introduced a program with an organization called North American Mattress Upcyclers, and you may be familiar with them. They do some great work in taking mattresses, and we go through a lot of mattresses in our hotels across the country, and kind of repurposing those mattresses. In some cases they get repurposed and donated. In some cases they get sold to schools and places like that. But it's an example of a really good program that is creating a much more favorable footprint for our hotels, and something that actually on top of the environmental impact, kind of has that social
Good,
impact,
a
which
good
is another
social,
core
exactly.
part of our ESG strategies
Yeah.
is being a good corporate citizen, finding ways that we can do things to to be responsible, and so it works well for us that way.
I think every generation is interested in upcycling, and what you're describing is that upcycling. You're using something that hasn't gotten to the end of its shelf life and
Yeah.
has another life ahead.
Yeah.
Certainly that bodes well for those who are looking to put their loyalties somewhere, and loyalty is always something that comes up in the hospitality space. How do you see loyalty vis-a-vis corporate travelers? Where does loyalty fit in with the corporate travel space?
Loyalty is huge, with our corporate travelers, and when we take a look at our system, and again, as a franchise organization that has many different brands, we look at loyalty, our loyalty program, choice privileges in our case, being kind of the common thread that binds everything all together. And increasingly, what we're seeing, and I think frankly, a lot of us in the industry, our competitors as well, are seeing that the loyalty programs are becoming increasingly important to our guests. Certainly corporate guests, but also, our leisure guests as well. But we're all looking to find ways that we can do a better job of creating that loyalty, because we know that a lot of our guests that are, members of our loyalty program are also members of our competitors' loyalty programs. So we're looking at things that we can do in particular to attract and retain a lot of those those corporate clients. One of the things that we've got, one of the favorite parts of our loyalty program for me, because I spend a lot of time in our hotels, so I have top tier status, and I've got it,
As you should have.
but all of our guests that stay, our loyalty members that stay in our hotels on Sundays through Thursdays, get something that's called a Your Extra. And program is actually just in the process of evolving. But the Your Extra allows you to go into your profile and set what you would want. So in my case, for example, I pick a $5 gift card from Starbucks.
Nice.
So if I check into any one of our hotels on Sunday through Thursday, which is principally targeted towards our corporate clientele, I get that coupon is in my
Nice.
on my phone by the time I get to my room. And it is just such a nice little perk on top of the points and the things that we get. And and the other perks of being part of a loyalty program, whether it's parking spaces or things like that. But Your Extras is sort of a really good name for it, because it's something that's above and beyond what a lot of our competitors are doing.
Well, corporate travel isn't always a delight, but that sounds like a delightful part of your program that would be really welcomed by the corporate travelers who are staying at your properties.
Yeah, it certainly has. It's been a great program for us.
Well, thank you, Brian. It was great to catch up on Choice Hotels Canada. I wish you all the best. And thank you for joining us at home. I'm Suzanne Neufang, CEO of GBTA, coming to you live from GBTA Canada Conference in Toronto.